I got laid off and my husband swore to support me, then drained our joint account, sneering, "You're a burden now." Too bad he doesn't know I transferred half to a secret account years ago. Now with his mistress gone and his credit destroyed, guess who's crawling back? Who's the burden now, sweetheart? You're a burden now. The words sliced through the kitchen air, sharp as the knife I'd been chopping onions with. Lucas stood across from me, his hand hovering over his phone where the banking app displayed our account balance. $12.47. Just minutes before, it had shown $27,865.32. Our safety net, our future, our 15 years of shared dreams, now vanished with a few taps of his finger. What have you done? My voice didn't sound like my own. It was too calm, too hollow. The knife trembled in my hand. What I should have done the moment you told me you got laid off. His voice had changed too, no longer the warm timber I'd fallen for all those years ago. I've been carrying you for too long, Heather. It's time you learned to stand on your own. If you've ever had to rebuild after someone shattered your trust, this story might strike a chord. Consider subscribing. It's completely free and connects you with others who understand that sometimes our greatest strength emerges when someone calls us a burden. Let's continue Heather's journey together. 15 years flashed before my eyes. 15 years of stepping back, of saying Lucas goes first, of quiet sacrifices that had led to this moment. 15 years of being the supportive wife, the understanding partner, the eternal cheerleader. 15 years of slowly becoming invisible. I set down the knife with deliberate care. I see. Two simple words that masked the storm brewing inside me. Lucas didn't know about my grandmother's inheritance, or the account I'd been quietly building for years. He didn't know that this betrayal had just set something in motion he couldn't stop. But he would learn. And I would be the teacher. My career in marketing had begun with so much promise. Fresh out of college with honors, I'd landed a coveted position at Meridian Marketing, one of the fastest-growing agencies in our region. Within 2 years I'd secured 3 major clients and had been singled out by the creative director as one to watch. My portfolio was growing and industry peers were beginning to recognize my name. That was when I met Lucas at a networking event. Tall, confident, with plans to revolutionize local construction management. His passion was magnetic, his ambition contagious. We fell into a whirlwind romance that felt like destiny. "We're going to build something amazing together," he'd promised on our 3rd date, tracing plans for his future company on a coffee shop napkin. "I can feel it." I believed him. Of course I did. His dreams seemed so tangible, so certain. Our connection felt rare and precious. We both understood the drive to succeed, the thrill of creative problem-solving, the satisfaction of making a mark. In those early days we supported each other equally. I helped him craft his business proposals while he encouraged my creative campaigns. We were partners in the truest sense, celebrating each other's victories, commiserating over setbacks, planning a future where both our stars would rise. Our wedding was small but perfect. To equal partners, Lucas had toasted, raising his glass to mine. To building our empire together. I didn't realize then that empires typically have only one ruler. The pivotal moment came 3 years into our marriage. My boss called me into her office on a Tuesday afternoon, her face alight with excitement. "The Seattle office wants you, Heather. Creative director position. It's a huge step up. More money, more responsibility, the chance to build your own team. They've been watching your work for months." My heart soared. This was everything I'd been working toward. That evening I rushed home to share the news with Lucas, bursting through our apartment door with champagne. But Lucas wasn't celebrating. He sat at our kitchen table, shoulders slumped, holding a letter that changed everything. "Morgan Brothers rejected my business loan," he said, not looking up. "Third rejection this month." I set down the champagne and moved to his side. "I'm so sorry, Lucas. But you'll find another way, you always do." "There's a smaller opportunity," he said after a moment. "Construction management position with Davidson Builders. Not what I wanted, but it could be a foot in the door. The problem is..." He finally met my eyes. "It's here. Not Seattle." The silence that followed contained the weight of unspoken expectations. We both knew what was happening. This was a test. Our dreams in direct competition. Someone had to bend. "Seattle can wait," I heard myself say. "Your career needs this chance right now." The relief and gratitude on his face convinced me I'd made the right choice. It was temporary, I told myself. My turn would come. I rejected the Seattle offer the next day. My boss couldn't hide her disappointment. "Are you sure about this, Heather? Opportunities like this don't come around often." "I'm sure," I said with a confidence I didn't entirely feel. "Family comes first." The gradual shift in our relationship was so subtle I barely noticed it happening. Lucas thrived at Davidson Builders, quickly becoming indispensable. His salary grew. His confidence expanded. His network widened. Meanwhile, I took a lateral position at a smaller local agency. Good work, but not the trajectory I'd been on. "It's just for now," became my silent mantra during late nights when I helped Lucas prepare presentations for his bosses. I researched industry trends for him, edited his reports, and listened to his practice pitches. His success became our success. His dreams became our dreams. Mine quietly faded into the background. When Emma arrived 3 years later, my career compromises seemed justified. Our daughter needed stability, and Lucas's rising position provided that. I shifted to part-time work for 2 years, then returned to a mid-level marketing position that offered flexibility but limited growth. "You're so lucky you don't have the pressure I do," Lucas would say, loosening his tie after dinner. "Just a simple job, home by 5, no major responsibilities." Each comment was a tiny cut. My simple job still brought in a third of our household income. My lack of pressure included managing our entire domestic life while maintaining a professional presence. My no major responsibilities somehow encompassed everything from Emma's education to our social calendar to Lucas's dry cleaning. But I smiled and nodded. "You work so hard, honey. We appreciate it." The warning signs were there had I chosen to see them. Lucas began referring to my paycheck as spending money rather than our shared income. He started making financial decisions without consultation, explaining afterward with a patronizing, "I didn't want to bother you with the details." When colleagues asked about my work at social functions, he would answer before I could, minimizing my role. "Heather keeps the lights on at some local businesses," he'd say with a laugh. "Nothing like what we're doing at Davidson, but it keeps her busy." Out of loyalty, or perhaps fear, I interpreted these moments as stress, as thoughtlessness, as anything but what they truly were: evidence of fundamental disrespect. The day before my layoff, Lucas came home with news of his biggest promotion yet. Regional Director of Operations. "We did it, babe," he said, lifting me off my feet in a rare display of shared triumph. All those sacrifices were worth it. I should have asked, "Which sacrifices, Lucas? Yours or mine?" Instead, I ordered takeout and poured the wine. 24 hours later, I would become a burden in his eyes. And everything would change. The morning of my layoff began like any other Tuesday. Emma had soccer practice after school, Lucas needed his blue tie for a client meeting, and I had a 10 a.m. presentation on the Westbrook campaign. Ordinary concerns for an ordinary day, until my desk phone rang at 9:17. "Heather, can you come to conference room B?" Marissa from HR never called my direct line. Something in her artificially cheerful tone sent a chill through me. Conference room B held 4 people. Marissa, my direct supervisor Tom, the agency owner Gerald, and a woman I didn't recognize with a leather portfolio. Their expressions told me everything before a word was spoken. "Please sit down, Heather," Gerald gestured to the lone chair across from them. A firing squad arrangement. Tom couldn't meet my eyes as Gerald explained the restructuring and unfortunate market conditions. My position was being eliminated, effective immediately. 15 years of dedication reduced to a manila envelope containing severance details and COBRA information. "Your contributions have been valuable," Marissa recited, clearly reading from a mental script. "But we need to consolidate the creative department." "I understand," I heard myself say, though I didn't. "Not really." The stranger with the portfolio, apparently from an outplacement service, handed me her card. I tucked it away mechanically, knowing I'd never call. "We'll need your key card and company phone," Tom finally spoke, his voice barely audible. Within 30 minutes, I was standing in the parking lot with a small box of personal items. A family photo, my favorite coffee mug, a desk plant Emma had given me for Mother's Day 3 years ago. 15 years distilled into a container I could carry with one hand. Sitting in my car, I called Lucas. Straight to voicemail. "Hey, it's me. Something's happened at work." Call me when you can. I kept my voice steady, professional. No need to panic him during his workday. Strangely, driving home I felt a flutter of something like hope. Perhaps this was an opportunity, not a setback. Lucas had just received his promotion, we had financial breathing room. Maybe now I could pursue something more aligned with my original ambitions. Start fresh. Maybe even launch my own small agency. By afternoon, I'd updated my resume and researched 3 marketing positions. I made a special dinner, Lucas's favorite lasagna, and helped Emma with her biology homework while waiting for him to arrive. When his key turned in the lock at 7:32 p.m., I had a glass of wine ready for him. "You're home early," he observed, loosening his tie. "What happened?" "Shoreview is downsizing," I said, holding out the wine. "My position was eliminated." Lucas didn't take the glass. His expression shifted from surprise to something harder to identify. Not sympathy. Not concern. A calculation. "What about severance?" His first question caught me off guard. 3 months, plus accumulated vacation. I set the wine down. "It's not ideal timing, but with your promotion." "Not ideal timing?" He cut me off with a harsh laugh. "That's putting it mildly." The ensuing argument escalated quickly, with Lucas pacing our kitchen like a caged animal. His reaction bewildered me. We'd weathered challenges before. We had savings. This wasn't catastrophic. "I can't believe your selfishness," he finally snapped, grabbing his keys. "I need some air." He didn't return until after midnight. I pretended to be asleep when he came to bed, but sleep eluded me as questions multiplied in my mind. The next morning brought no resolution. Lucas was distant over breakfast, speaking only to Emma about her upcoming science fair. I spent the day sending out applications, determined to show initiative. When Lucas returned from work, I approached him with a structured plan for our finances during my job search. "I've calculated our expenses," I began, spreading a spreadsheet on the kitchen counter. "With my severance and our savings, we can maintain everything comfortably for at least 6 months, even if—" "I need to check something," he interrupted, pulling out his phone. The color drained from his face as he stared at the screen. Then came the accusation that would reveal everything. "You've been moving money out of our account?" "What?" "No, I haven't touched anything." I moved beside him to look at his phone. Our joint account balance showed $12.47. "Where is it?" I asked, confusion giving way to alarm. "Where's our money?" "Safe," he answered coldly. "Where you can't access it." The truth crystallized in that moment. Lucas had emptied our account, our shared savings built over 15 years of marriage. "You had no right," I began. "I had every right," he cut me off. "I earned most of it. We both contributed. That account is in both our names." My voice rose despite Emma being upstairs. "You're a burden now." The words fell like stones between us. "I'm not carrying dead weight." The kitchen knife I'd been using to chop onions trembled in my hand. I set it down carefully, afraid of what I might say or do next. "What about Emma's college fund?" I asked, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Don't touch it," he warned. "That stays where it is." He left again that night. I sat at our kitchen table until dawn, numb with betrayal and something else. A cold, clarifying anger. Morning found me at his desk in our home office, searching for answers. Emma had gone to school and Lucas to work. The house echoed with absence as I methodically went through his files, his browser history, his statements. The credit card bill revealed a pattern. Dinners at places we'd never been together, a hotel charge from 2 months ago, a jewelry purchase from a boutique that had never gifted anything to me. Small inconsistencies that painted a damning picture. Text messages appeared on his iPad, synced from his phone. A woman named Megan sending hearts, scheduling meetings that never appeared on his work calendar, complaining that he hadn't left me yet. My hands were steady as I photographed everything. Each image was a brick in the foundation of whatever would come next. That evening I told Emma that her father was on a business trip. She accepted the explanation without question, accustomed to his absences. We ordered pizza and watched her favorite movie. I braided her hair before bed, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, memorizing the moment. "Is everything okay, Mom?" she asked, eyes wiser than her 14 years. "Everything will be," I promised, meaning it for the first time. After she fell asleep, I made 3 phone calls. to my grandmother's lawyer, to my best friend Kate, who had always disliked Lucas, and to my cousin Thomas, who sat on the board of the local contractors association. Alone in the master bedroom, I removed my wedding ring and placed it on Lucas's pillow. Then I pulled up the banking app on my phone and checked my private account, the one Lucas knew nothing about. The balance displayed $142,856.79. Who's the burden now? I whispered to the empty room, allowing myself a single sharp smile before beginning to plan my resurrection. Sleep came in fitful bursts that night as memories of my grandmother Rose flooded back. Memories I hadn't revisited in years. I could almost smell her lavender sachets and hear the creak of her rocking chair as I recalled the day she changed my life, 5 years into my marriage with Lucas. "Heather, darling," she'd said during one of our Sunday visits, "come help me in the garden." At 78, Rose Blackwood was still tending her vegetables and dispensing wisdom in equal measure. As we knelt in the soil, she handed me an envelope. "This is the deed to this house and property," she said without preamble. "I'm putting it in your name. Today." "Grandma, I can't." "You can and you will," she cut me off, her hands still nimble as they tucked a tomato plant into the earth. "And you'll tell no one. Not your mother, not your cousins, and especially not Lucas." Her directness shocked me. Why not Lucas? Rose sat back on her heels, fixing me with the clear-eyed gaze that had intimidated generations of Blackwoods. "Because a woman should always have something that's hers alone. My Harold was a good man, better than most, but even he didn't know about my safe deposit box." I'd laughed then, thinking she was exaggerating. She wasn't. "I've watched you dim your light for that man," she continued. "Maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't. But you'll have this as insurance either way." The property wasn't large or particularly valuable then. A modest 3-bedroom house on the edge of town with an acre of land. But Rose had chosen well decades ago. The town had grown around it and developers had been eyeing the location for years. When she passed 6 months later, I honored her wishes. The property remained in my name only, separate from all our marital assets. Lucas assumed it had gone to my mother or been sold. I never corrected him. That same month, I opened a separate account at a credit union across town. Each payday I transferred a small amount, $50 here, $100 there. Nothing Lucas would notice in our comfortable financial situation. On the rare occasions he questioned a discrepancy, I mentioned Target purchases or coffee dates with friends. He never looked too closely at women's expenses. The rental income from Rose's property went directly into that account. First from a young couple, then from a nurse who stayed 5 years. The money accumulated slowly but steadily, my quiet rebellion, my secret strength. Now, in the darkness of what had been our bedroom, I thanked Rose for her foresight. The woman who had survived the Depression, raised 4 children alone after her husband's early death, and never remarried, had known something about self-preservation that I was only now fully appreciating. Morning arrived with a text from Lucas, coming by at noon to collect some things. I went straight to check Emma's college fund. Lucas and I had established a 529 plan when she was born, with both of us contributing monthly. Accessing the account online, I discovered 3 attempted withdrawals in the past week. All rejected because they required dual authorization. My phone showed no notifications about these attempts. Lucas had been trying to drain this account too without alerting me. My hands shook with a combination of rage and vindication. This wasn't just about punishing me for losing my job. He was systematically trying to strip away our daughter's future. I picked up the phone and called the investment firm, explaining the situation. The representative was sympathetic but clear. Without evidence of financial malfeasance, they couldn't remove Lucas from the account. "We need documentation of financial abuse or a court order," she explained. "I understand," I replied, my mind already racing ahead to next steps. "Please flag the account for heightened security in the meantime." Next I called my cousin Thomas. Our families had drifted apart over the years, another casualty of Lucas's careful social engineering, but Thomas had always made a point of sending Emma birthday cards and Christmas gifts. "Heather, this is unexpected," he answered, genuine warmth in his voice. "I need your help, Tom," I said, surprising myself with my directness. "It's about Lucas." The silence on the line stretched for a moment before he responded. Finally. That single word confirmed what I'd suspected. Others had seen what I'd been blind to for years. Thomas served on the board of the local Contractors Association, the organization that had helped Lucas build his network and reputation in the industry. As we talked, I learned that Lucas's charming facade had begun to show cracks in professional circles as well. Small promises unfulfilled, credit taken for others' work, questionable billing practices with suppliers. Nothing big enough to cause real trouble, Thomas explained, but enough to raise eyebrows. I need to understand who he's really been all these years, I said, including his relationship with his assistant. Thomas's hesitation told me everything. Megan Daniels, he finally confirmed. It's been going on about 8 months from what I've heard. She's been at industry events, introduced as a colleague. Most people know the truth. The confirmation should have hurt more, but instead it was like lancing a boil. Painful but ultimately relieving. I need names, I said. Everyone he does business with, everyone who might have seen things I haven't. Heather, concern colored Thomas's voice, what are you planning? Nothing illegal, I assured him. Just finally opening my eyes. By noon I had a list of contacts and a clear picture of Lucas's professional web. I also had Megan's full name, address and social media profiles, all revealing a woman 10 years younger who posted inspirational quotes about deserving better and waiting for someone to choose you. The irony wasn't lost on me. When Lucas arrived to collect his things, I was calm and composed in a way that clearly unsettled him. Emma will be home at 4, I said. I'd prefer you be gone by then. He bristled at my tone. I have a right to see my daughter. Of course you do. We can set up a schedule once you have a stable living situation. I handed him a printed statement of the 529 accounts showing the attempted withdrawals. And once you explain why you tried to steal her college fund. The color drained from his face. That's not. Save it for the mediator. I cut him off. Your things are packed in the guest room. As he stomped upstairs, my phone pinged with an email from a developer who'd been interested in Grandmother Rose's property for years. They'd increased their offer significantly since we last spoke. Sometimes the universe has impeccable timing. When Lucas returned downstairs with 2 suitcases, I was sitting calmly at the kitchen table typing an email response. Where am I supposed to go? He demanded, his earlier confidence replaced by petulance. I looked up with genuine curiosity. Isn't that Megan's department now? The shock on his face confirmed what I'd suspected. He hadn't planned for this outcome at all. He'd expected me to beg, to break, to bargain. Instead, he was encountering a version of me he didn't recognize. A woman with hidden reserves of strength he'd never bothered to see. The day after Lucas moved out, I woke with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee, opened my laptop and typed, Blackwood Marketing Solutions. Simple. Professional. Right. Within a week, I had secured a modest loan using Grandmother Rose's property as collateral. I rented a small office space downtown, deliberately choosing a building visible from Lucas's office window. The sign installer positioned my new company logo, a sleek, modern design in black and silver, so it would catch the afternoon light. A petty gesture perhaps, but satisfying nonetheless. My first target wasn't Lucas directly but rather the ecosystem he depended on. Davidson Builders worked with 3 primary architectural firms, all of which needed marketing services. I knew this because I'd listened to Lucas talk shop for 15 years, absorbing information he assumed went in one ear and out the other. Jenny Hargrove, principal at Hargrove Designs, had always been cool toward Lucas. During our few social interactions, I'd noticed her subtle eye rolls at his more bombastic statements. She became my first client. Your husband's been trying to undercut my bids for years, Jenny confided during our initial meeting. Nothing I could prove, but I know it was happening. Ex-husband, I corrected. And I'm not surprised. But that's not why I'm here. I presented a comprehensive marketing strategy for her firm, one that highlighted their sustainable building practices, something Lucas had always dismissed as tree hugger nonsense. Jenny signed the contract that day. Word travels fast in small professional communities. Within 3 weeks I had secured 2 more architecture clients, both competitors to firms Lucas courted. My knowledge of construction industry jargon and needs, gleaned from years of listening and editing Lucas's presentations, proved invaluable. The first chance encounter occurred at the Greenery, an upscale restaurant where Lucas often took clients. I was having lunch with Jenny when Lucas walked in with the board chairman of Southwest Development. His double take upon seeing us together was subtle but unmistakable. "Lucas," I nodded politely as they passed our table. "How lovely to see you." Jenny and I were just discussing her new project on Riverside Drive. Brilliant concept. Riverside Drive had been a development Lucas had been pursuing for months. The flash of alarm in his eyes was brief but telling. "Heather," he managed, his smile strained. "I wasn't aware you two knew each other." "Oh, we're working together now," Jenny replied cheerfully. "Your ex has quite the marketing mind. She's revolutionizing how we position ourselves in the market." The chairman's interest was immediately piqued. "You're in marketing, Mrs. Carter?" "Blackwood," I corrected smoothly. "Heather Blackwood. And yes, my firm specializes in architecture and construction marketing. Here's my card if you'd ever like to discuss your needs." Lucas's jaw tightened as I handed his potential client my business card. The private text he sent me 30 minutes later was less controlled. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I didn't reply. Strategic silence can speak volumes. Similar coincidences occurred over the next month. Me appearing at industry events I'd previously avoided, connecting with people Lucas needed, offering insights that showcased my understanding of the market. I never spoke ill of him. I didn't need to. His reputation was beginning to speak for itself. Meanwhile, Lucas's financial situation was deteriorating. Thomas kept me informed of the industry gossip. Lucas had taken out a high-interest loan, missed payments to suppliers, and was rumored to be borrowing from business accounts to maintain his personal lifestyle. The credit card statements I still received showed a pattern of desperation. Expensive restaurants, jewelry store purchases, weekend getaways to impress Megan. He was spending as if nothing had changed, despite losing half his household income and access to our joint savings. "He's bought her a watch worth 2 mortgage payments," Emma remarked one evening, scrolling through her phone. At my questioning look, she explained, "Megan posted it on Instagram. Thanks to my amazing man for this incredible surprise." Emma's eye roll was pure teenage judgment. "Real subtle, Dad." I'd been careful to shield Emma from the uglier aspects of our separation, but at 14 she was observant enough to piece things together. When she'd asked about the reasons for our split, I'd been honest about the financial betrayal but avoided mentioning the affair. "He took our savings without talking to me first," I'd explained. "Marriage needs trust and that broke mine." Emma had nodded thoughtfully. "Is that why he tries to buy me expensive stuff every weekend?" Her perception startled me. "He's trying to show he still has money, right? Like to prove something." "What do you think?" I'd asked, curious about her insight. "I think he's scared," she'd said simply. "And probably in trouble." He was right. Lucas's desperate spending was a house of cards that couldn't stand much longer. The collapse began at the Davidson Builders Autumn Client Appreciation event, a gathering I would have normally attended as Lucas's supportive wife, now an event I deliberately attended as a professional in my own right, invited by one of my architectural clients. Lucas was holding court near the bar, Megan at his side in a dress that cost more than most people's monthly car payments, when his credit card was declined. I witnessed it from across the room, the embarrassed fumbling for another card, Megan's confused expression, the whispered argument that followed. By the time I circulated to their side of the room, Megan was nowhere to be seen. Lucas stood alone, nursing a drink, his typical confident posture notably absent. "Everything all right?" I asked, genuine curiosity in my voice. "Perfect," he replied, the edge in his tone betraying the lie. "Why wouldn't it be?" "Just checking. Emma mentioned you might be coming to her science fair tomorrow." His face fell. "I can't make it. Something came up with the Westbrook project." "That's strange," I replied. "I had lunch with Philip Westbrook yesterday. He mentioned the project is on hold until spring." The realization that I now had direct relationships with his clients visibly shook him. He excused himself quickly, leaving his half-finished drink behind. 2 days later, Emma forwarded me a screenshot of Megan's latest social media post, a vague but pointed rant about men who promise the world but can't even afford the rent, and starting over with self-respect intact. The relationship had apparently imploded once the financial reality became clear. The community's perception shifted gradually but inexorably. Lucas had always cultivated an image of success and stability. The reliable family man, the prudent businessman, the generous community member. As his financial struggles became more evident, that carefully constructed facade began to crumble. His absences from community events were noticed. His excuses about missed payments were questioned. His seats on local boards, positions he'd leveraged for business connections, were quietly filled by others when his terms expired. I never had to say a word against him. The consequences of his own actions spoke eloquently enough. "Mom," Emma asked one evening as we prepared dinner together, "do you think Dad ever really loved us or just the idea of having a family to show off?" The question pierced my heart with its raw insight. "I think he loved us in the way he knows how to love," I answered carefully. "Some people can only see others in terms of what they provide." Emma nodded, wise beyond her years. "I'm glad you're not like that." In that moment, watching my daughter's strong profile as she chopped vegetables, I realized that the subtle art of consequences had yielded an unexpected blessing. Clarity not just for me but for her as well. 3 months after our separation, Blackwood Marketing Solutions had grown from a one-woman operation to a small team of 4. I'd hired a talented graphic designer fresh out of college, a social media expert with industry connections, and a part-time office manager who happened to be a former Davidson Builders employee with an encyclopedic knowledge of their operations. We'd outgrown the original office and moved to a larger space in the same building, this time with a corner view and windows on 2 sides. Meanwhile, Lucas's financial house of cards was collapsing spectacularly. Thomas called one Tuesday morning, his voice unnaturally tight. "You might want to sit down for this," he began. Lucas tried to secure funding for a speculative development project on the north side. Used falsified documents showing Davidson's support. My stomach tightened. How bad? Bad enough that Davidson has placed him on administrative leave pending investigation. Rumor has it he's leveraged everything trying to get this project off the ground. Mortgaged his condo, taken personal loans, even approached some questionable private lenders. Why would he risk everything on this project? I asked, genuinely bewildered. Thomas hesitated. Word is he was trying to create a financial comeback after Megan left. She'd been talking about their future. Marriage, a bigger house, and when she walked out, something snapped. This project was supposed to be his grand redemption. That evening, I received an unexpected credit alert. Lucas had attempted to open a new credit card using our old joint information, including my social security number. The attempt was flagged and denied due to the fraud alert I'd placed on my credit after our separation. His desperation was reaching dangerous levels. Emma noticed the change in her father too. Their weekend visits had become irregular, with Lucas often canceling at the last minute or cutting them short with vague excuses about work emergencies. "He took me to lunch at Burger King yesterday," she remarked one Sunday evening. "Said his credit card was acting weird, so we had to go somewhere cheap." She picked at a thread on her sleeve. "It's weird seeing him like this. He used to act like he owned the world." "People often show their true selves under pressure," I replied carefully. "He asked me about you," she continued. "Like a lot of questions about the business and if we're doing okay financially." Her eyes met mine, suddenly sharp. I didn't tell him anything. I hugged her, overcome with pride at her instinctive loyalty and wisdom. "Thank you, sweetheart." "He's not the person I thought he was," she said into my shoulder. "I used to think he was so strong and successful. Now I just feel sorry for him." The final collapse came swiftly. Lucas's name appeared in the business section of the local paper, not in the flattering profiles he'd once cultivated, but in a small article detailing financial improprieties at Davidson Builders. Though the piece didn't explicitly state he'd been fired, the wording made it clear his departure had been involuntary and under investigation. 2 days later, my office phone rang. The receptionist's voice was unusually hesitant. "Mrs. Blackwood? Lucas Carter is in the lobby asking to see you. He doesn't have an appointment." My heart performed a curious little flip, not from lingering affection but from the unexpected arrival of a moment I'd somehow known would come. "Tell him I'll be down in 5 minutes." I took my time, finishing an email to a client, touching up my lipstick and straightening my desk. When I finally descended to the lobby, Lucas was pacing by the windows, his appearance notably different from his usual polished self. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair unkempt, and the confident posture that had once defined him was nowhere to be seen. "Let's walk," I suggested, gesturing toward the small park across the street. Public places were safer for difficult conversations. We settled on a bench overlooking a children's playground. Lucas sat heavily beside me, the space between us charged with unspoken history. "I need your help," he finally said, the words appearing to physically pain him. "What kind of help?" I kept my voice neutral, professional. "Financial." He couldn't meet my eyes. "Temporary. Just until I get back on my feet." "I see." I watched a young mother pushing a laughing toddler on a swing. "And why would I do that?" "Because we were married for 15 years, he replied, a hint of the old entitlement creeping into his tone. "Because we have a daughter together. Because it's the right thing to do." I allowed the words to hang in the air between us, considering each one carefully before responding. "Do you remember what you said to me the day after I lost my job?" asked finally. "When you drained our account and left me with nothing?" His gaze dropped to his hands. "Heather, I was under a lot of pressure." "You called me a burden," I continued calmly. "You said you wouldn't carry dead weight." "I didn't mean." "No, I think you did mean it." I turned to face him fully. "You meant every word. You'd been thinking it for years, that I was somehow less valuable, less worthy of respect because I'd stepped back from my career to support yours. That my contribution to our family was somehow insignificant next to yours." He didn't deny it, which was perhaps the most honest he'd been in years. "I'm not going to help you, Lucas," I said quietly. "Not financially, not professionally, not in any way that enables you to avoid the consequences of your choices." "Then why did you agree to see me?" Frustration etched his voice. I smiled then, feeling a curious lightness. "Closure, perhaps. Or maybe just to see your face when you realized how completely the tables have turned." I stood, smoothing my skirt. "Who's the burden now, sweetheart?" The words weren't delivered with venom or triumph, just simple, undeniable truth. His face registered the hit, the echo of his own cruel dismissal coming back to him when he was at his lowest. "What am I supposed to do?" he asked, genuine fear cracking through his facade. "The same thing you expected me to do," I replied. "Start over. Learn to stand on your own." As I walked away, I felt no vindictive pleasure, only a profound sense of having come full circle. The woman who had once dimmed her light for a man's comfort was gone, replaced by someone who understood her own worth and power. That evening, Emma and I sat on our back porch watching fireflies emerge in the gathering dusk. I'd told her about Lucas's visit, believing in honesty as the foundation of trust. "Are you okay?" she asked, her young face serious in the fading light. "I am," I realized, the truth of it settling deep in my bones. "Better than I've been in a long time." "Will Dad be okay?" Her question held concern but not the desperate worry of months before. "Eventually," I said. "When he learns that his value doesn't depend on appearances or possessions." Emma nodded thoughtfully. "I hope he figures it out." "Me too," I said and meant it. The phone rang inside. Another potential client referred by Jenny Hargrove. As I rose to answer it, I caught my reflection in the window glass. The woman looking back at me stood straight and tall, unburdened at last by the weight of diminished expectations. No longer supporting someone else's dreams at the expense of my own. No longer a burden but a force to be reckoned with.